And by that time, I'd been in Princess Grace more often than Prince Rainier.
Bob Monkhouse was more than just a comedian. He was a showman, a wordsmith, a tireless performer, and a master of reinvention. Across 6 decades of British entertainment, his name became synonymous with sharp wit, smooth delivery, and unrelenting professionalism. But behind the polished veneer of Britain's most charming game show host was a man shaped by a childhood of emotional neglect, professional battles, and the ultimate heartbreak of outliving both his sons. A life in laughter and tragedy.
Childhood suggests that if she loved you, she found it difficult to show her affection for you, at least physically.
She found it impossible to show her affection.
Born Robert Allen Monkhouse on June 1, 1928, in Beckenham, Kent, his early years were anything but comedic. Raised in a strict and emotionally distant household, he grew up in a relatively affluent environment. His grandfather co-founded the Monk and Glass Dessert Company, but it lacked warmth. His father was a chartered accountant who expected discipline and excellence, while his mother was cold and disapproving. In his memoirs, Bob later described his childhood as lonely, full of silence, and devoid of affection. This emotional void perhaps planted the seed for his lifelong need to be seen, heard, and above all, liked. Even as a young boy, Bob discovered a refuge in creativity. At age 9, he began writing jokes. By 11, he had already sold his first cartoon to a magazine. This entrepreneurial streak blossomed through his teenage years. He wrote and illustrated his own comic strips and went on to contribute to major publications such as The Beano, The Dandy, and Radio Fun. In partnership with a school friend, Denis Goodwin, he co-founded a small publishing venture producing comic books and humorous magazines. His early love for cartoons and comedy became the first glimpse of a multifaceted career. After attending Dulwich College and serving a stint in the Royal Air Force, Monkhouse began to pursue comedy full-time. He partnered with Denis Goodwin, and the duo quickly became successful gag writers. They wrote jokes for nearly every top British comedian of the era, including Max Miller, Arthur Askey, and Ted Ray. Even the legendary Bob Hope used Monkhouse's material. Bob was a natural storyteller, and his understanding of comedic timing, both on the page and later on the stage, was unparalleled. His ambition was boundless, and he always had one eye on the next opportunity. In the 1950s, Monkhouse made the leap from behind-the-scenes writer to on-screen performer. His early appearances in sketch comedy and variety shows revealed his charisma and timing. Unlike many comedians of the day, Monkhouse had a clean-cut, almost dashing presence. He looked more like a game show host than a stand-up act, and in fact, he would become both. Film roles soon followed. He appeared in movies such as Carry On Sergeant, the first in the famous Carry On series. It was a modest role, but it established him as a figure who could translate his comedy to film. Yet it was television that offered the biggest platform for his talents. In 1967, he began hosting The Golden Shot, a chaotic and technically unpredictable live game show. With contestants firing a crossbow at a target while being guided by remote viewers, the show could have been a disaster in lesser hands. But Monkhouse handled the madness with sharp improvisation and ease. His catchphrase, Bernie the Bolt, became iconic, and The Golden Shot earned massive viewing figures, sometimes over 15 million. This was the beginning of Monkhouse's reign as Britain's king of game shows. He went on to host a series of great game shows from Celebrity Squares to Wipeout for several years, making him one of Britain's best-loved game show hosts as well as one of its best-loved comedians. Each show had its own format, but Bob remained the constant, charming, witty, and completely in command. His rapport with contestants, whether celebrities or members of the public, was effortless. He could crack jokes at lightning speed and yet always came across as kind rather than cruel. Despite his immense popularity, Monkhouse was not always loved by critics. In the 1980s, a new wave of alternative comedians began mocking the old guard of variety entertainers. Bob was an easy target, too slick, too rehearsed, too establishment. He was parodied, often unfairly, as a smarmy operator more interested in punchlines than authenticity. But those who knew comedy respected him. His timing was precise, his knowledge encyclopedic, and his love for the craft unmatched. As the comedy tide turned once more in the 90s, a new generation came to appreciate his skill, and Monkhouse enjoyed a resurgence of popularity. His deep respect for comedy extended beyond performance. He was an obsessive collector and archivist, amassing one of the largest private archives of British entertainment in history. His home contained more than 50,000 tapes, film reels, scripts, and memorabilia. He rescued rare television episodes from oblivion, many wiped by the BBC by having recorded them himself decades earlier. After his death, the British Film Institute and other organizations acknowledged the immense historical value of his collection, which included long-lost episodes of classic shows and performances by legendary entertainers. Professionally, Bob Monkhouse was tireless. He worked constantly, whether on television, radio, live performance, or writing. His output was staggering, but so was the personal cost. His personal life was far more complicated than his public persona suggested. Bob married his first wife, Elizabeth Thompson, in 1949. They had 3 children, Gary, Simon, and an adopted daughter, Abigail. But the marriage was far from harmonious. His relentless focus on his career, combined with Elizabeth's own emotional challenges, led to a growing rift. The couple divorced in 1972 after more than 2 decades of marriage. In 1973, Bob married Jackie, his former secretary. Jackie brought stability and calm to his life, and their marriage lasted until his death. But perhaps the most tragic aspect of Monkhouse's life was his relationship with his 2 sons and their eventual deaths. His eldest son, Gary, was born with cerebral palsy. He was unable to walk, talk, or hear and required round-the-clock care. Despite these immense challenges, Bob was a devoted father to Gary. He ensured his son received the best care possible and visited him regularly. Friends and colleagues recall how deeply Bob loved Gary, even if he didn't always show it publicly. When Gary died in 1992, at age 40, after choking to death in his care home, Bob was devastated. He rarely spoke about the incident, but those close to him said it left a permanent scar. His relationship with his younger son, Simon, was more strained. Simon struggled with addiction and mental health issues for much of his adult life. He often felt abandoned by his father and overwhelmed by the attention given to Gary. Their relationship broke down completely in the 1990s, and they became estranged. In 2001, Simon was found dead in a guest house in Thailand from a heroin overdose. He was 46. The two had not spoken for years, and Bob never recovered from the loss or the guilt. He spoke publicly of his regrets and the pain of unresolved conflict. It was a grief no amount of applause could ever silence. Bob's legacy.
When I said I wanted to become a comedian, everybody laughed at me. Well, they're not laughing now, are they?
In 2003, Monkhouse was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. As always, he met the challenge with courage and humor. He used his platform to raise awareness about the disease, urging men to get checked and supporting research and treatment initiatives. His final stand-up performance was filmed just months before his death and showcased his enduring brilliance. Even when facing death, he remained funny, poignant, and unflinchingly honest. He died peacefully December 29, 2003, at age 75. He passed away at home, surrounded by his wife and loved ones. Tributes poured in from across the entertainment world, honoring not just his talent, but his generosity and dedication to preserving comedy's legacy. Comedians who once mocked him now praised his genius. Many admitted they had underestimated him, failing to see the complexity behind the polish. He's now remembered as one of Britain's greatest entertainers, a craftsman of comedy, a pioneer in television, and a quiet archivist who helped preserve an entire era of show business. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Bob Monkhouse? Let us know in the comments section below.